Hello everybody and welcome back to World of Warships Legends. My name is Spartan Elite 43 and tonight we are wrapping up our Path to the Kansas series. And that can only mean one thing. We're into Kansas, baby, and we're going to get this party started. So, with William Sims, we have Azure Lane Scharnhorst and Paolo de Rebel. If you do not have Scharnhorst, I recommend Andrew Cunningham as a replacement. We have Flammable Cannoneer, Gyrating Drill Bits, Marksmanship, and Reaching Out XXL. With Will to Rebuild is our perks. For equipment, we're running AA Guns Mod 2. We have Steering Gears Mod 2. We have Target Acquisition Mod. And we have Artillery Plotting Room. Now, moving on, we have 3 heals, we have 3 spotter planes. We are running an epic booster. Just keep that in mind during the video. Now, I'll go ahead and pull this off so that you can see the stats without it. We have Community Contributor Flag and the Permanent Camo from the Bureau Project. Stats: 69,800 hit points with 40% torpedo damage reduction. One of the perks over the Iowa is that she thick. Kansas is thick. She's got that torpedo protection that the Iowa does not. Artillery. You have 12 406mm guns. That's right, 12 406mm guns. And they are the Mark 7s. 18.7 kilometer firing range with a 35.9 second reload time. That's the downside. But you got to remember, you get 12 guns, not 9. That's why it takes an extra 6 seconds to reload that extra set of guns. So you want to use them whenever possible. And because you have a much better turning rate than the Iowa, you get to use those rear guns a lot more. 180 degree turn time, just 32.7 seconds, not too shabby. HE shell maximum damage 5700 with a 36% chance of setting fires. AP shell maximum damage just 13,640, which is less than the North Carolinas. I know, doesn't make a lot of sense, but I guess they gotta figure out a way to balance the ship when you give it an extra set of guns. 127mm Mark 32s, you have 16 of those reaching out to 5 kilometers and reload in just 6 seconds. They fire HE with a maximum damage of 1800 and a 5% chance of setting fires. AA defense also worse than the North Carolina at just slightly, but 20mm Ehrlichen Mark 20s, you have 23 times 2, which would be 46 of those, and that's 140 damage per second, reaching out to 2.4 kilometers. Then you have the 40mm Bofors Mark IIs that you have 48 of that do 191 damage per second, reach out to 4.2 kilometers. Then you have the 127mm Mark 32 secondaries that you have 16 of that reach out to 6 kilometers and do 121 damage per second. Maneuverability is 22.5 knots. She's a bit slow for her tier, so keep that in mind. However, she has a fantastic turning circle, turning better than even the Alabama and the Massachusetts. So one of the best turning battleships at tier 7, probably the best turning battleship at tier 7, come to think of it. Rudder shift time, not great but not terrible, 13.4, kind of right in the middle. Concealment, 14.3 kilometers by sea, 12 kilometers by air, 2 is always guaranteed, and 14.4 kilometer smoke firing penalty. Armor, a lot of it, but you will notice that this ship gets pinned at strange angles, so keep that in mind. So you have a 273mm belt that's underneath the torpedo protection, which is why it doesn't look like you have a 273mm belt, but it's there, I promise. It is, though, a low torpedo belt. It doesn't extend above the waterline, which is part of the reason that you get pinned a lot. But that being said, you still have 32mm of armor pretty much everywhere that's above the waterline. So keep that in mind. If we get rid of that, you can see the torpedo protection. Again, armor belt is 273mm. The torpedo protection's an extra 32mm on top of that. So as long as you're angled sufficiently, you'll be fine. But like I said, you will notice there are some interesting issues here. Much like the California, this thing is thick as nobody's business. Like, this thing is thick. You can see how thick that torpedo protection is outside the hull of the ship. And then on top of that, you got these gun turrets that are sticking out, and those gun turrets cause a lot of penetrations, as well as the deck anyway. But those gun turrets and the torpedo protection, you get weird diving penetrations into this ship at strange angles that cause trouble. And that's why a lot of people don't really care for the Kansas, is because of that. You get just strange penetrations all over the place. But that being said, it is still a very good ship, and it's got literally the heaviest broadside at Tier 7. There's no arguing that. So here we look at the Citadel, and you can see it is a submerged Citadel. It's right at the waterline, a little bit below the waterline. So you're usually pretty protected. You got to watch for going flat broadside to anybody, you know that. But overall, unless you're in a hard turn, you're going to be relatively well protected from most penetrations. But this thing gives up a lot of standard penetrations, which means you still get hit for 10, 12K salvos where 3 or 4 rounds go penetrate into this thing. Okay, keep that in mind. It's a very big ship. And with these spots that are sticking out, and then you see this armor where the plunging fire can get down into some weird angles, you can take some penetrations that you wouldn't think you'd be taking. Alright? So keep that in mind. Let's look at the overview. Agile, above average ability to change directions. Again, we talked about this. I think it's probably the best turning battleship at its tier. The only thing that I would like is if it turned a little bit quicker. The rudder shift is still on that little bit of a slow side. It's not super slow, but it is a little bit slow. But guns aplenty, high number of main guns, 12 of them, 12 16-inch guns at Tier 7. Alright? Like, that is a heavy broadside. One of the advantages of this is when you're in a situation that you're kiting away, which does happen sometimes, when you have to turn out and kite away, you've got just as many guns over the rear as you have over the front, and as your enemy has over the front of their ship, usually. So that comes in handy. But she is slow. She's a couple knots slower than most. Like Iowa, with the normal build, is generally right around 27 knots top speed. This is, what was it, 22 knots? So it's not a huge difference, okay? And I don't know why everybody always talks about it being a huge difference. Most people's complaint about the Kansas isn't the speed. It's that it takes penetrations from strange angles, and the guns take forever to reload, because they do take a little bit longer than the standard Iowa and Alabama, Massachusetts. All right, so let's take a look at her. Like I said, she thick. Look at that thing. That's ridiculous. You can see the ship in the middle, and then it's just got, you know, a life jacket around it for torpedoes. It's ridiculous. But there's just something to be said about 4 triple 16-inch guns. Am I right? You can't argue with that. That's a whole lot of freedom you can dispatch every salvo. So, with that being said, let's get to the gameplay. Alrighty, so, much like the North Carolina, this was the first match that I had in the Kansas. Same day, by the way. I had gotten the North Carolina video so quick, and I was unexpected, that I was just like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and run the Kansas and see what happens. And the funny thing was, it wasn't the North Carolina and the Kansas that I initially set out to get a game in. It was the Tennessee. But I had a string of bad luck at the beginning of trying to get a Tennessee video, where I got YOLO'd by 3 different destroyers in 3 different games, and it kind of screwed up my, when you're in a battleship and a destroyer decides to YOLO, 9 times out of 10 you're dead. There's just nothing you can do about it. You can shoot them, but 9 times out of 10, unless you're a Conqueror or a Nelson or a Vanguard and you've already got HE loaded, you're not going to dev strike them usually. You take all of their health and leave them with just enough to drive right past you and dump all of their torpedoes into your ship. It's just the way it goes. Now, that being said, we are in the Kansas, and we're on Haven, and we spawned on the right. Now, it's a domination, which means we got to try to help our team get some points here, and I'm going to showcase the weakness of this ship at range. You're going to see some of that plunging fire actually get a hold of me. Now, we've got a shot here at the Cleveland. We're using the auto aim. We're going to go ahead and account for a little bit of a speed up. We aim out ahead of them, and we drop those shells over the island, and it looks solid. And we get a couple penetrations for 7,200. Not bad. But we're sitting broadside to a Massachusetts, and he's already fired his guns. And even though I'm turning out, he's going to catch us pretty solid. It's not, I'm not going to lie, it's a pretty solid hit. And he gets it. Gets one Citadel and a couple of penetrations. So, pretty nasty way to start the video, not going to lie. I was not very thrilled, but I knew it was my fault. I was trying to get a hold of that Cleveland. I knew there would be guys out here. And now we see the Fletcher, and he's slowing down to stop in a smoke. We take the shot right as he disappears, and watch it. Yep, 5 over penetrations on him, taking us up. That was 7,000 damage. And then we take another Citadel from the Massachusetts, this time at the rear of the ship. And I was like, okay, I get it, Massachusetts. I get it. You don't have to keep punching me in the mouth. All right, I get it. I'm sailing broadside to you. You don't have to keep reminding me. All right. But what is the theme of this week's path to the Kansas? It's been surviving and making the enemy pay for not finishing you off. Right? That's been kind of the theme of all of these videos, is you sometimes make mistakes. You could give up, or you could keep fighting and maybe accomplish something amazing. Now, that King George just got absolutely touched. As we take a shot at the King George, again, we are broadside to a Massachusetts, and this is not where you want yourself. Only this time, we had already started turning by the time he fires his gun. So by the time the shells get here, we're going to be pretty well angled, and he actually ends up missing completely. So, little bit better play there by me that time, anticipating the shot. You know, you get double Citadel'd early in a match, you start to pay attention to what guy is doing it and trying to avoid getting it to happen a third time, in theory. Or at least, I try anyway. Oh my god. Kansas, calm down. What is that? That is a paddling, man. That was what, 14,000 damage and no Citadel? Tell me again how the Kansas is bad. When you can get American railguns that happen occasionally, not all the time, but American railguns, and you get 12 of those? Whew, you in for a bad day if you're on the receiving end. But speaking of bad days, Massachusetts testing out his torpedo reduction, which is somehow better than the Kansas's. I don't get it either. They get 50% torpedo reduction in the South Dakotas, but the Kansas gets 40% for some reason, even though the Kansas is thicker in every direction. I don't get it. But, again, it's a balancing feature, so I do get it. Even though I don't get it, I get it. But the game is knotted up. Each team has lost 2 battleships and a destroyer. Like, it doesn't get much closer than this, and I promise you, you do not want to turn away from this video. This video is going to be tight all the way through. And it could come down to one good play by one good player to win the match. Might not even be me. So, what's going to happen, guys? It's good, I promise. But we're going to start pushing in. Now, we've already won this side. The destroyer's moving out to flank. But he's running into a Cleveland, which is dangerous, obviously. We had just a short amount of time there to take a shot at the Cleveland. We did our best to try to anticipate what he's doing, but unfortunately he was turning out, and he's going to be able to completely avoid those. You can see he gets out ahead of him just enough, you know. But our destroyer that's at Bravo, or outside of Bravo, has got himself into one doozy of a pickle. He's got like 6 battleships around him. I know I'm giving him a little too much credit, but 3 battleships and a destroyer jumping all over him. And we take a shot and get a really good shot out on the Kagero there, taking 2 hits off of him, and it was what, over 5,000 damage we took on him. So a solid hit, and or was it? It might have been like 3,000 damage because it was 2 overpins. But yeah, we got a solid hit. Now right now we're not looking too good. We've got 60,000 damage. Our team is down a ship now, and things seem to be going horribly wrong. But when you've got the 12-gun broadside of 16-inch American armor piercing, it doesn't take much to swing the battle back in your favor. All right? Like, I'm not joking. This battle is going to take a crazy turn once we can get into position to actually start using these. Now, obviously, the cruiser goes behind the island. The Alabama disappears. This is not preferable because I would love to get a shot on him but before he knows I exist. But unfortunately, unless somebody can spot him, and speaking of spotting him, there we go. I go ahead, take the shot. We're going to light up. He's going to see us coming. Ooh, that shot looks solid. It's mostly horizontal dispersion. Did we lead him enough? Not really. We're hitting towards the back. Still a solid result, but hit towards the back of his ship. Probably running propulsion mod on that battleship. A lot of people do run propulsion mod. I prefer being able to steer my battleships a little bit quicker. But yeah, we're going to be able to keep punching this Alabama. Our Cleveland's doing his darndest to hold the mid. He's trying his best to hold. And that Alabama just needs one good look at that Cleveland to remove him from the match. Remember, the Alabama and Massachusetts have 16-inch 45 caliber guns, and are because of that, the shells move slower and are less likely to overpin cruisers, even the Cleveland. And so it's a crapshoot for Cleveland to go up against one of them, because it's not likely to end in his favor. But because we were so bent on getting our 16-inch gun, or our 12 guns to bear, we have sailed behind the island and kind of screwed ourselves over here. The Alabama is going to not be able to be shot now. Our Cleveland is going out from behind the island for some reason, and he's going to pay the price, and down he goes. And just like that, it's now a 4v3. And worse than that, those torpedoes look like they're headed towards our battleship, and some of them appear to have found their mark. Richelieu is requesting fire on the Alabama, which I would love to give him, but I don't have a shot yet. And just like this, we're really looking at a very, very nasty situation. Okay, we've got our destroyer out there, but a Cleveland's pushing back on him. Richelieu gets a shot on the Alabama, fails to take him out. I don't know how, but he did. And so we're trying to get a shot. As soon as the front guns clear the island, we take the shot, and yeah, we screwed the pooch. Completely screwed the pooch. And it was at this point that I thought I lost. I'm not going to lie. I thought this game was over at this moment. Because I'm like, okay, now I've got a Scharnhorst on my left. I got an Alabama on my right. I've got a destroyer fighting a Cleveland. There is very few ways that I can pull this off. Now, Alabama, luckily, is very low health. I'm going to try to stay angled to him, anticipating that the Scharnhorst little guns are going to struggle to get much out of me. My superstructure is already saturated, so we're going to aim high at the superstructure of the Alabama, and that was tight. That salvo was tight. And then we take a shot with the rear turrets of Justice out on the Cleveland, and Kansas comes through once again. Pow! Down he goes, finishing off the Cleveland. And just like that, in a very short succession, the Kansas has turned the tides of this battle and evened this up. But my teammate in the destroyer, who has up to this point been good at capturing bases but not a whole lot else, even though he did get a couple torpedoes into the Massachusetts at the beginning, we get a nasty overmatching shot through the bow of the Scharnhorst, giving us the Confederate. And the Scharnhorst realizes he's in trouble, starts to turn out. We're going to get the rear turrets of Justice on him before the island, and we're going to smash him again, only this time only getting a single hit. Now again, we're going to take one of these on the prop shaft. It causes flooding. Surprised it didn't knock out my engine, and at this point, I thought I was dead. Again. But will to rebuild come through once again. I'm flooding. Should die. I've got 1 heal in my back pocket. I've got 30 seconds for a damage con. I'm waiting for an opportunity to shoot the Scharnhorst. The destroyer is making himself a target, which is not preferable, because he's the only one keeping me alive at the moment, and if he dies, I die. But he does get some really nice torpedoes into that Scharnhorst. And now that the Scharnhorst is so low, we look over, we've got the mass. I can't shoot the mass at the moment. You can see I tried, but you know, just he disappears the moment I get ready to shoot him. My will to rebuild is gone. We're able to use our heal, get our damage con back. We're going to heal up enough damage that I think we can handle the Scharnhorst quickly. We have 16-inch guns. We overmatch him. All we got to do is aim a little higher up on the belt, and we'll be able to smash him. He makes the bold decision to reverse out and try to torp me. I am inside his torp range, but unfortunately for him, he did not get the memo that he does not have the health, and we smash him, getting our high caliber and our 3rd kill. This is where paying attention to the situation wins you games. I cannot stress enough that if you pay attention, we have a 300-point advantage. We have a cap advantage. They have a destroyer versus my slow battleship with 16,000 hit points left. This is not a situation that you have to be a hero. They can't win unless they kill me. There's less than 3 minutes left. He's going to get this cap. That only ties up the cap. In order to win this match, he needs to kill me. He should have recognized that from the get-go, and rather than trying to cap the base, been heading straight for me. And maybe he was. Maybe he was heading straight for me to try to torp me from the get-go. But he's going to play around and launch his torpedoes from just too far away. And because of that, he ends up costing his team the win. And I end up being the hero in this situation. Because I recognize my advantage and get the f*** out of there, there's nothing he can do about it. He can chase me down and try to torp me, but torping somebody who's going away from you is darn near impossible. It just is. Even something as thick as this. And then you got on top of that, you got to remember that even if I take a torp, he's not going to kill me. His torps are going to be reduced, and I'm not going to take that much damage from his little torpedoes. And if you remember also, I think it only has like 8-kilometer range on those torpedoes. So he's got to get real close to torp me. And there you go. We make a few adjustments, and he's settling for trying to torp at long range. Nowhere near us. And this is what I'm talking about. So, because of this, we end up winning this match. I only have to survive another minute. His best bet would be to try to gun me down at this point. He's already missed his one salvo of torpedoes. By the time he gets them loaded again, they're not going to have time to reach me. And I know this as well, so that's why I'm getting the guns ready. I'm expecting him to open fire, but he just never does. And because of that, he loses. His best bet would have been stay at range and start gunning me down, and then launch torpedoes when he can, spread them out, and hope for one of them to hit. If you spread the torpedoes out when you're launching them, if you know they got the range and you spread them out, I'm not saying launch wide spreads, I'm saying launch one over this direction, we'll launch the other over this direction, and let them fan out. At this sort of range, you're going to have some gaps between the torpedoes that are pretty nice. And when you're just trying to hit something, you don't know what could happen. But because of the way he handled the situation, I end up winning this match. And this is just a perfect example of knowing the situation, knowing when to disengage, and doing enough to secure the win and get down. Now you can see I already had HE loaded. I fire my guns just, playing around because I never expected to hit him. We get the Dreadnought there as well. And finish the game with a solid come-from-behind victory. 124,000 damage, Dreadnought Confederate, high caliber, 3 kills. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. Top of the leaderboard, 2,400 base XP. If you like what I'm doing, punch the like button, leave a comment below, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and as always, I will see you in the next video.